Yes, greetings and the best of salutations. Yes, I would like to deal with a topic of discussion when it comes to arrogance. Arrogance. It is said that the one called Prophet Muhammad said, "He who has in his heart the weight of an atom of pride should not enter into paradise." Think about this here now when it comes to arrogance. Arrogance could be associated with a person that is full of stuff. You know, he or she is full of it. It is a person who thinks more highly of himself than they ought to. It is a person that wants the attention. He or she draws attention to him or herself, sows a seed of dissension. An individual or person that is full of it is a individual that thinks that the everything evolves around him or her. A person that is full of it, he or she thinks of themselves that they are superior while others are inferior. A person who has an arrogant attitude is a person that is always on the take, but not willing to give back that which he has taken in proportion which he or she has taken. A person that is arrogant is a person that is false. He or she is a pretender. He or she pretends to be something that he or she is not. He gives off these boisterous claims, very loud, but yet hidden behind the loudness is a deep feeling of insecurity and feelings of inadequacy. A person that is full of it now, he or she is a son of a gun. What I mean, a son of a gun is associated with violence. When he or she has these deep-seated feelings of insecurity and feelings of inadequacy, he or she becomes obsessed with violence. And what is violence but the result of an unresolved status? He or she is unresolved status, you see. Yes. Yeah, he become more don't know his place in life, or not place in life, but don't know who or she is, I should say. He or she becomes prone and more susceptible to participate in acts of violence, and even he or she who interact with one another in economic relations, and he or she who interact with economic relations And when they he or she determines the status of that relationship and determine the status of a relationship, there becomes a culturalization. And then some group of people, anyone, will have the undertaking to institutionalize that a particular group remain in a certain status. Yes. Of inferiority. Yes. He or she is full of it. He or she is full of it when it comes to the only disease that cannot be cured is greed. Yes. He or she is full of it. Not only is these persons are arrogant, but yet they know some things, and that which they think they know, they have not realized that there's more to be learned, so therefore it becomes a sense of ignorance. And ignorance is the result of hostility, as if there's nothing else to be learned. So when it comes to a person that is full of it, when it comes to arrogance, he or she oppresses the people with their own ignorance, because they can't see their own ignorance. No one has a monopoly on intelligence. This abundant world, we have what is needed to live a productive life. But yet somehow or another, some has taken on the manifest destiny, as if this is the humanity that I'm going to give to the world, and people follow suit. There was a story about a man who had wealth in material goods. And I don't get caught up in personages, but it's the personification of what is happening amongst this humanity. He didn't want to give up his greed, his material wealth. He didn't want to listen in a very helpful manner when it comes to there are more important things than material wealth. What's more important is your health. It's more important than having a healthy outlook among life and about life. I remember the gentleman, very prominent brother. He had the wealth and did good, and he said he would give it all up just for his health. As Bob Marley said, we seem to be in a rat race, A rat race, in competition one with another rather than cooperation. I look at some of the people who popular society says that they're celebrated. I'm not in their shoes. I haven't acquired the wealth that they have acquired. But what I do know when I look for my own self, that although they may acquire some of the finest things in life, and they may be highly celebrated by maybe a lot of people, if I may use that term. I don't want to necessarily say the majority, but they're highly celebrated. They're celebrated for their accomplishments and their material success and the manner and way and how the system is geared and set up, whereas that they have to go through this process to achieve that success. I don't know, maybe it's several figures who are exceptions to the rule. And I know that could be a few who are very humble in their accomplishments and their success, where they will take character and virtue over their material success. They will take treating someone in a healthy, whole, and respectful manner rather than being demeaning and degrading and disrespectful. Now, this goes beyond one's material success. It also plays out in those who may not have acquired the material success, but under the influence of the larger society, and they go about life and suffering from illusions of grandeur themselves. And they may not have the wealth that others have, but yet they still live a life under the illusion and in disguise as if they do. So they walk around and act very disrespectful and braggadocious themselves. Sometimes they live beyond their means. And sometimes they get so caught up that they themselves pretend to be something that they are not. And they become highly intoxicated under the influence of the larger society or that which is popular. So they do things without prioritizing themselves, governing themselves accordingly. But then there again, there are those who do, who are not seen, who are not celebrated. Well, that story, as I was saying, about the brother who refused to give up his wealth as opposed to living a life of virtue, of being a man of character. He had did great things in his eyes, and it was celebrated for his accomplishments due to his wealth. And he didn't want to give it up, so he thought of, building greater and doing bigger things and building bigger buildings. And you know the story, building of bigger bonds. But yet, it was very foolish, because we cannot take these things with us, but we can leave it behind for others. But it's not so important to the material wealth, really probably what you believe behind. But you leave behind virtue. You leave behind character. You leave behind nobility. You leave behind decency. You leave behind respect. You leave behind the peace. You leave behind or pass on to others good character and the virtue of life. But if we leave them behind, put them behind us rather than allowing it to be in us and emanate from us in a demonstrable way. And then that which we think that we are, and those things that we are celebrated for, is done in vain. For vanity is the enemy of consciousness. So I say, and I must say, that we must come into peace. Peace in terms could be used in a relative sense, but we must come into it. But our heart must be right. And when we come into peace, we will not be a threat to one another. When we come in peace, our faith will be awakened. And when we come into peace, we need not to have a retaliatory spirit. When we come into peace, our serenity becomes higher and our stress becomes lower. When we come into peace, we will realize that the oneness is stronger than conflict and unity is stronger than diversity. When we come in peace, we will be psychologically and physiologically reflecting and projecting a image, trajectory about peace. I say peace seems to be what we need. And I'm talking about not a peace, once again, that is opposite to war. And I'm not saying it in the sense that peace opposes war. Not saying that it does not, but it do opposes war. And what war am I talking about? The war is psychological, because it's a war of the soul. And what is the battleground? The battleground is ideological. May we not use the ideology of an oppressor or that which is oppressing us to self-incriminate each other. So we have to win the battle and understand the importance of the war. We have to understand the importance of our feelings, that we must take inventory and be considerate toward the feelings of others. We must understand that every thought begins with a seed and vision stems from the source of our thinking. We must understand that which we see, we must understand that which, when it comes to progress, it has something to do with your scope and the lenses in which you are using. If we don't shoot and look beyond the horizons, but yet all we can see is that which is right here before us. And that which right here before us can find us. And when we come into the peace, we understand the importance of our attitude. We understand the importance of our attitude, that we realize that if anything that was kicked out of what people call a garden was the attitude. In the garden you have everything that you need, but it's the attitude that you have. It's the attitude that we have toward life. It's the attitude that we have toward one another. And when we come into the attitude, there is no need to dehumanize one another. And if I back up a minute, when we come to the correct way of thought, there's no need, to demoralize another. Yes. And when we come back up to the feelings, when we come to our feelings, peaceful feelings, there's no need to be desensitized if we have no sympathy, no empathy for one another. Then when it comes to the the attitude, it comes to the language, the communication, the manner in which we say to one another, that it may not be devitalized, that we really need to listen to one another, because when we listen to one another, it will reflect what we would do to help one another. And then when it comes to our actions, we will not be apathetic. Yes, we must come into this peace as an individual. I'm doing my best to come into it. Doing my best trying to debrief myself from the contamination and the corruption from outside influence. And let me tell you something, it is a challenge. How can I determine how successful I've come to this point in my life? I have my good points and I have my bad points. But I try to deal with the good points. For example, someone used to get me roused up, and then all of a sudden I responded in a way that I was at peace. There's so much disturbance going on, so much loud talk. People still looking for attention. People are suffering from the value of self-worth. People are still trying to find a place of belonging. But yes, you do belong. You belong because you come from the womb of your mama. You're legal citizens here. Has nothing to do with a country saying that you are a legal citizen of a country. You are a legal citizen here. You are legal because you are here. And we'll always be mindful if anything that ever has taken form will always be remembered. So that's the legacy probably we want to leave behind. You have taken form, you will always be remembered. We're not looking for any grandstand or trying to make a superficial and artificial reputation for ourselves. If anything, the material that has been given to us to build on our humanity is character. May we continue to strengthen our character, and may we continue to be at peace. And I'm talking about be at peace with yourself, with your soul, with your mind, with your spirit, with your heart. The core of the matter, we have the opportunity to learn how to coexist with one another. And Dr. King would say, rather we will perish as fools. You see this guy who wanted to build bigger and bigger bonds. And we act like a fool. We act like a fool with material success. We act like a fool when we achieve things in life. And we develop a sense of arrogance, which is deadly and detrimental to peace. I don't care how much you are celebrated in your wealth, how much you are celebrated in your success. Once again, Prophet Muhammad said this: he who has an ounce of Adam should not enter into paradise. And I'm not talking in any morbid sense. Talking about the paradise for me, in my understanding, is the peace with yourself, the peace with your soul, the peace with your mind, the peace with your heart, how we use our hands, how we use our strength, how we use our mental faculties to be at peace one with another. Be at peace with yourself, with ourselves, with our one who is a part of the community. Because if there is a resurrection, it is not one that resurrects. It is the resurrection of a humanity. And Noble Drew Ali talks about the fall. The fall of humanity. I'm alluding to it now, the fall of humanity. He came to deal with that. And when humanity falls, it falls into moral, cultural decline, recidivism, a lack of accountability. And that's what sin is. Other than that, talk to you.